In a world torn apart by war and betrayal, one woman must navigate the fine line between loyalty and survival. Trilogy of Jessica Bauer, Part 1, The Awakening. Welcome to our channel. If you enjoy thrilling stories filled with drama, suspense, and powerful characters, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more exciting chapters. And don't forget to give a thumbs up if you're ready to dive into the world of Jessica Bauer. When Jessie woke up, her throat felt like it was on fire. She tried to call out, but her voice was barely a whisper. A nurse, noticing her struggle, offered a glass of water. "Would you like some water?" Jessie nodded slowly and gulped down a few sips. The cool liquid felt like silk sliding down her burning throat. As the nurse moved away, Jessie caught sight of a familiar silhouette in the flickering firelight. He turned and crept closer as the nurse left the room. His face was unshaven, and dark circles hung under his eyes, giving him a more fierce, world-weary look. "Welcome back, Jessica." "Thanks." "They told me the rebels shot you?" He spoke softly, his voice heavy with concern. Her breath caught in her throat as he searched her face. "The meds aren't working?" "I'm okay." "You really are Minnie Thomas," you choked out. "But Adrian, now he's Samantha all the way." He filled the glass on her bedside table and offered her some more water, but she turned her face away. "Don't take it personally, Jessica. I told you how the Bauer family works." He set the glass back on the nightstand. "Just next time, try to shoot first." Jessie huffed, realizing it was a mistake to confide in him. Of course, he was gloating. That was his specialty. Well, that and consoling heartbroken women. Almost on cue, his fingers brushed her cheek. She tensed and turned to face him. There was pity in his stormy eyes, which made her flush with anger. "It's your fault. He heard your men calling me Waters." He laughed, but there was no amusement in his chortle. "Right. Here comes the usual refrain. By all means, blame me, Jessica. Don't blame Adrian, the boy who pulled the trigger." He leaned in to whisper in her ear, his stubble scratching against her tear-stained cheek. "But don't forget who's taking care of you now. I don't see any Bowers around." Jessie shuffled away from him, and he straightened up with a jerk. She wanted to curl on her side, but it was difficult with her injured leg. Instead, she lay on her back, her eyes tracing the cracks on the ceiling, trying to make shapes out of them, refusing to look at him. She heard him walk away and the door slam shut behind him, the lock clicking into place. Jessie sat up against the headboard, testing the pain in her leg. It was a dull ache now, something she was growing used to. She hated to think how much worse it would be without the pain medication. She wanted to move, but needed something to help her. She glanced around the room. Nothing. With a grimace, she swung her left leg to the floor and gingerly tested her weight. Her right leg screamed in pain, and fresh blood seeped from the bandage. "Damn!" She looked again toward the bar. She desperately needed a drink. Leaning against the wall, she reached for a chair to steady herself. Sweat broke out on her forehead and back. Dizzy, she collapsed onto the chair. It wasn't very comfortable, and the bandages were already soaked through. It had seemed like a good idea at the time. She closed her eyes, trying to convince herself that maybe Adrian hadn't meant it, that it had been an accident. The rifle had dropped. He had reached for it awkwardly. She drifted into a semi-conscious reverie. When she opened her eyes, the nurse was trying to lift her back to the bed. "Lean on me," the nurse urged. Jessie obliged, grateful for the support. Once back in bed, the nurse shook her head, scolding her softly. "You need to rest. You've lost a lot of blood." She began to change the dressing. "It's a good thing you were with someone who knew what to do, or you would have bled out very fast. Don't push your luck. We gave you blood when you arrived, but finding another donor in time might not be so easy. You need to take it easy." "I need a drink," Jessie muttered. The nurse's eyebrows shot up as she shook her head. "You need rest." "I can't stop thinking. It must be some leftover adrenaline." Daisy, the nurse, examined her supply of medications. She had been told to spare nothing for this girl. If the rumors were true and she was indeed Thomas Bauer's niece, she'd treated General Bauer before. Maybe she really did need something to help her sleep. But first, she needed to eat. The soup was salty and unappetizing, but Jessie forced herself to eat it. Daisy had promised to give her something to take the edge off if she ate first. And right now, all Jessie needed was an escape. So soup it was. "Here, this will knock you out." Daisy watched as Jessie downed the pills with a gulp of water. Slumber came gently, as the warm rays of the sun melted into dusk. When she woke again, Waters was snoring beside her, and she needed to pee. Great. She lit a candle and was relieved to see a pair of crutches leaning against the wall. The fire still provided enough light to make her way to the bathroom. The gas lighting in the small corridor was enough to see by as she left the door open. It would have been awkward to wake Waters. Her thigh was numb, but her knee was swelling. Groggily, she made her way back to the bedroom. Waters was sitting up under the covers. "You should have woken me up." "Seriously? Waking up General Waters, the president of the elective, because little old me needed to pee?" She rolled her eyes. "Very funny. How's the leg?" She grimaced as she sat down. "Weird. Is it supposed to swell?" He nodded. He had seen his fair share of gunshot wounds. She could have bled out, just like Shelley. He scrubbed his hand through his hair and closed his eyes. He couldn't go back down that road. The guilt was waiting, ready to consume him. She was a soldier. If she had died, she would have been just another casualty in this bitter war to keep the elective safe. That was it. Only it wasn't true, and it was becoming tiring to pretend otherwise. He had always cared too much. That was his problem. Jessie carefully placed one leg after the other on the bed and leaned back into the pillow. Damn! She had forgotten to blow out the candle. She didn't have the energy to sit up and extinguish it. Wordlessly, he leaned over her and blew it out. He settled against her left side, his face inches from hers. His hand brushed her bare arm, making her shiver. "You're right. It's my fault. I shouldn't have sent you there." She stilled but didn't look at him. He only whispered words like this in the dark. Was it his fault? It would be blissful to blame him, to keep Adrian safe from any smudge. "You're not the one who pulled the trigger. I think it was an accident." They were silent for a few minutes. Waters' hand lingered over hers, not quite touching, but she could feel his warmth spread over her fingers. He was silent, but she spoke again. "It just happened. It's nobody's fault." She raised her fingers to lace them with his, pulling his hand over hers. Her cold fingers and skin jolted him. He gently pulled her closer. The dance between them was always the same. He would push her away. She would kick him away. He would reach for her, and she would pull him closer. Over and over again. Their silences were full of intimacy, and both of them knew that no amount of threats or rejection held any weight. They were stuck together. "You should blame me, Jessica." His voice was hoarse. She turned her face to try to read his expression in the semi-darkness. Self-loathing. That was a strange guise for this mighty man. "You're right. It'd be easier for both of us, but it wouldn't be true." She sounded exhausted. He wanted to argue, to make her angry and lash out, but she had just made it out of the woods. It was nice to have her back, oddly comforting to feel her body against his in the depth of the night. If only she wasn't a Bauer. If only his ghosts would leave him alone. He couldn't think about them every time she poked at his scars. They were gone. Dust. Jessie was here, alive, breathing, and he had almost lost her because of his scheming. "I'm glad you didn't die, Jessica." He surprised himself by saying the words out loud, but she was probably asleep. He closed his eyes and didn't see her eyes flicker open. She lay very still as his body relaxed and he went back to sleep. She was aware of the way he was holding her closer and hadn't pulled his hand away. Which man was the real one? The one who whispered in the night, or the one who made sure to train her to become a weapon to be used against her own family? She wanted to believe he was the first one, the one who cared in spite of her name, the one who clung to her like she was a lifeline, the one who made her feel safe. He was always there, right at the edge of his blue eyes, hiding under that commanding presence. No doubt she was a fool for believing, but she was a survivor, and one had to believe in something or someone in order to survive, Jessie told herself. What happens when loyalty and survival clash? Will Jessie find her true path, or will the shadows of the past consume her? Stay tuned for part 2 of the Trilogy of Jessica Bauer. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Leave a thumbs up if you're excited to see what happens next, and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next chapter.